Hi, welcome to another character trait lesson. First of all, before we talk about our lesson today, how did you do with peace inside of yourself? Let's see, there we go. This last week, did you have any situations where you were just so frustrated with yourself or with someone else? And then you thought about this lesson and you were able to cause peace to come inside of yourself? I'd like to hear about some of your stories. So today we're going to still talk about being peacemakers. But we're going to be talking about having a peace with someone else. Being angry and being upset is okay, just like it's okay to be happy and to be sad. Those are important emotions. The issue with being angry and upset is that oftentimes when we're like that, we hurt other people. We will say words that will hurt, or we will physically hurt someone else when we're angry. And so we're learning to be peacemakers so that no one is hurt. There's always a way to handle a problem without hurting anyone. Have you ever noticed that when you have a problem with someone, there's a few things that happen? Sometimes when people have a problem with someone else, they'll run away from the situation, or they'll pretend it doesn't happen, or they'll put down a name call, you stupid person, you're no good, and so forth. Or they will gossip, that Sally, do you know what she did? No, 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 no. Or when someone has a problem with someone else, oftentimes they'll physically fight, or they'll verbally fight using naughty words, and that's fighting is never a good thing. We're going to learn how to be peacemakers with doing positive things instead of all of these negative, ugly things. Calmness and peaceability are values because they help others as well as ourselves feel better and to function better. That's why we have to develop this calmness and this peacefulness in ourselves and help others develop inside of themselves also. So how do we do it? The first most important way is to take time to cool off. Whenever there's a problem, an argument, step back and cool off for a while. And then after a bit, go to that person and say, how are you doing? Are you calmed down enough that we can talk about this? So step back and cool off. A second skill is to think, what kind of words am I going to say before I speak? Because once those words are out, they're out for good. So think about what you're going to say. A third skill is to listen. Try to understand what that person is feeling. Listen to understand. Listen so you can truly feel why that person is thinking the way that person is thinking. Another important skill is when you are discussing this problem, discussing this argument, trying to work out this argument, be respectful. No interruptions. Listen all the way through. No blaming or name calling. That is so, so important. When it's your turn to speak, when you're discussing this problem, say, I felt this way. These are called I messages. This is how it made me feel. Instead of saying you say, this is how it made me feel. That's an important skill. It's a hard one to learn. Be honest when you're discussing an argument with another person. Be honest. And compromise, win-win. We'll learn more about that in our next post, but whenever there's a problem, there has to be a compromise. Let's use a story. Let's use a situation. Let's say Uncle Mike, and we talk about Uncle Mike. Let's say Uncle Mike was taking his nieces and nephews that he loves so much that live in Las Vegas for lunch. And McDonald's was right there close. But let's say Hallie didn't want to go to McDonald's. She doesn't like McDonald's. She wanted to go to Wendy's. But McDonald's was there, and Uncle Mike was taking them there. Now Hallie could throw a fit and be upset and angry and say, I am not going to eat at McDonald's. I won't eat any lunch. That would not be a way to do it. Or she could compromise. Okay, I'll go to McDonald's and I'll find something on the menu that I like. That's compromising, giving in a little bit. She still gets her lunch, but she has to eat it at McDonald's instead of at Wendy's. One of the most important skills when we are having an argument with someone else is to forgive. After you've done your discussion, after you've done your fighting, it's important to forgive. Being a peacemaker between yourself and another person, a skill that is just critical, is forgiveness. It's really honorable to be the first one to say, I'm sorry. Hard to do. Takes a lot of self-control. Have you ever been in a situation, excuse me, when you've been arguing with someone and your mom's been listening and she steps in and she says, okay, Cody, you tell Jet you're sorry. And Cody says, sorry, Jet. Is that really forgiveness? Nah. It has to come from the inside out. You have to really forgive and not have to make someone else tell you to tell someone else you're sorry. Just a bad tickle today. So remember, as you have issues with other people and you're looking at them and you're just saying my way is the right way, remember that every person that you look into their eye, Heavenly Father loves that person clear through and through. And you need to look at that person and remember that as you're trying to work out an argument with them. Heavenly Father loves that person. Everyone you look in the eye, He loves them. Okay, I'm going to tell you a little story about compromising and about working out peace between another person. So Mrs. Hanson is the 3rd grade teacher, and she has assigned her class a history report, and she wants everybody to get together with a partner and come up with this history report to present to the rest of the class. They have to write it and then they have to present it. So Brooke and Charlie decide that they're going to be partners. And they sit down and they're trying to decide what topic to talk about. Well, Brooke loves pioneers. She likes the way their dresses are and the dances that they had and the trials that they had with their covered wagons. And Charlie really, really wants to do a report on Native Americans. And both of them feel quite strongly about their topic and they start arguing. And then Brooke stops and she remembers these skills that we've been talking about in this Peacemaker lessons. And she decides to really listen. Okay, Charlie, now why? Why is this such an important topic to you? And Brookie finds out that Charlie wants to talk about Native Americans because her great-great-grandmother was a Paiute Navajo princess. And as Charlie is listening to this, some ideas come into her mind that will support this subject. She comes up with some really good ideas that will help make this report a good report on Native Americans. And so she compromised and she went to work with Charlie and they made this report. And when it was all done, they received an A on it. Of course, this is a pretend lesson, but that's an example of how to be a peacemaker when you have an argument with someone else. There's always a solution to the problem other than fighting and other than arguing. So this is what I want you to think about. Try really hard to make peace when you're in an argument with someone else. This is a critical skill to develop right now when you're young, and it will bless your life the rest of your life. Always remember how much I love you, and always remember how wonderful you are.